Hello and welcome to today's technology webinar. My name is Mark Oakton. I am the coordinator with the Curriculum and Professional Development Division. I have the responsibility for working with helping and supporting teachers in their efforts to integrate technology into instruction. You can find me on Twitter at Mark_Oakton. You can also reach me through my district Google email address, which is up on the screen, and you can see that. And I'm here to support you. Today we are looking at what apps we can use, and we're going to look at apps both in the Google ecosystem and in the iOS or Apple iPad ecosystem, apps that we can use to help students create engaging student presentations. And so I'm glad for this opportunity to have to talk to you about something that I feel really strongly and passionately about, how we can help students to create things that are engaging and amazing. The first order of business that we have to address prior to beginning, because I know people want to receive credit for attending this webinar in PathLore. This webinar is part of our, we've transitioned from doing the live webinars to doing webinars on demand. So in order to get credit in PathLore for attending this webinar and for viewing the playback in this Google Classroom, courtesy of Edpuzzle, you do need to do a couple of things. First off, you have to view the entire webinar, and it has to show that you viewed the entire webinar. And because this is being done through Edpuzzle, it will pause at certain points. And if you don't, continue on, then it shows that. So simply hitting play and walking away isn't going to help you at all. As well, you have to answer the questions throughout the presentation, and so that's think of it as little quizzes to make sure that you're paying attention, that you're participating fully. If you're going to receive credit, that can be used towards contact unit accrual. And of course, we do ask that you complete the exit survey at the end of the webinar to provide some feedback and some constructive feedback as to how I can best support you in your efforts to not just help students create these engaging presentations, but also in your efforts to integrate technology as a whole. So a couple important things there. Please make sure that you are aware of those as you go through this webinar. At this time, we're going to pause in order for you to complete the first interactive element, which is to let us know who you are. Add your name and your school location, please. For our second interactive element, what do you hope to get out of this webinar? Why are you here? What do you hope to learn from this hour of your time? And how can it be of value to you? As always, we want to remind you that this presentation is part of the Clark County School District's BlendEd Digital Learning Initiative, which is a collaborative effort between various branches within the Curriculum and Professional Development Division. These branches are the Online and Blended Learning Department, the Professional Development and Education Office, or PDE Office, Technology Integration Support, and the Nevada Ready 21 program. Together, we are working across the district with multiple entities to try to get online and blended learning into more and more of our classrooms. When we're talking about the district's BlendEd initiative, what we mean, we're looking at combining the best elements of face-to-face instruction with the best elements of online and digital learning. Instead of talking about blended education in the Clark County School Districts, we talk about BlendEd. In BlendEd, we are looking at three key elements: the digital curriculum, the guided instruction, and the authentic assessment, or what we call the CIA of digital learning. If you think about it, all classrooms are designed on these three elements: curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And they always have been. You can't do any of them without the other, and they should have an equal balance in every classroom. However, this does look a little bit different in the BlendEd classroom. Remember that BlendEd is a mixture of face-to-face instruction and digital content. Many of you are already using an element of digital curriculum in your classroom, which means that you are on your way towards a BlendEd learning environment. Imagine, if you will, a triple Venn diagram. Each and every day, we are somewhere within that Venn diagram. Some days we're more involved with content, and other days we're more involved with instruction. The spot we're aiming for is where the curriculum, instruction, and assessment converge. For today's webinar, talking about engaging student presentations, we're focusing primarily on the authentic assessment portion of this CIA of BlendEd. Okay, let's talk a little bit about engagement. Answer this question for yourself. How many student presentations have you sat through that entirely bored you, and bored the students in your class? Consider the times that you have sat through presentation after presentation by students that blended together due to the lack of originality, creativity, personality, spirit, or pizzazz. Then ask yourself, why do I keep doing that to myself and to my students? In 2003, Julia Keller penned the editorial called Killing Me Microsoftly. I love the subtitle to this one, PowerPoint is the Devil. This great editorial, which I've used a number of times in teaching, notes the contributions to this ubiquitous platform, and it also notes its pitfalls. It says, quote, all at once, no more slides, no more overheads. Visuals could be scanned directly into the computer and inserted at appropriate places in your program. If you wished, PowerPoint had a variety of graphics you could also nab. Best of all, while you couldn't put all of your spoken text onto the screen, you could get enough up there to quell your fears of public speaking. At best, you can embellish upon the bullet points, confident that nerves wouldn't cause you to lose your place as your talk proceeded. At worst, you could stand up there and just recite the bullets as your entire speech, reading them aloud off the screen as if your audience were a tribe of illiterate backwoodsmen who had somehow wandered into a presentation. She continues by saying, but PowerPoint had a dark side. It squeezes into a preconceived format, organizing and condensing not only your material, but, inevitably it seems, your way of thinking about and looking at that material. A complicated, nuanced issue invariably is reduced to headings and bullets. And if that doesn't stultify your thinking about the subject, it may have that effect on your audience, which is at the mercy of your presentation. Close quote. I think that this has been one of the unintended consequences of tools such as PowerPoint. However, I do not believe that we should jettison our use of technology simply due to poor implementation. Rather, we need to be aware of our goals and use the appropriate tools where they do support our goals. To this end, as I often say, we know that learning cannot happen when an audience is disengaged, disinterested, or distracted. With that said, to me, engagement is not a goal. Rather, it is a byproduct of making an instructional shift. Because when students are engaged in high-quality, rigorous, standards-based instruction, I believe that learning is inevitable. Through the creation and delivery of engaging presentations, students become more than passive consumers of information, media, and content. Instead, they become active producers and curators of that content themselves. And that's my little soapbox speech that I always like to give. In addition to this, technology becomes a tool for conveying, demonstrating, and applying the skills and knowledge that the students have gained, not just the medium of receiving information. There is a clear difference between students that are actively engaged in using technology as a production tool in comparison to using it passively to receive information. Again, to me, the connection between student engagement, keeping in mind that engagement is really not the goal but a byproduct of effective instruction, is obvious. Students actively participating in high-level, standards-based instruction that places a high cognitive demand on them will learn, and in their presentations they can demonstrate that learning in a way that is engaging and creative and allows them to think critically. Which leads us to our next topic. I think that it's important that whenever we're looking at integrating technology into instruction, we remember the key 21st century skills that we should be promoting with our students. We often refer to these as the 4 C's of 21st century learning: creativity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. This is especially pertinent, I believe, as we consider our purposes for students creating presentations. Torrey Parker talks about these 4 C's of 21st century learning. He explains communication as being about sharing thoughts, questions, ideas, and solutions. And think about it. In our age, our technological age, this is so much easier. However, it is at the same time harder to communicate. We have more convenient ways to communicate, but sometimes all these different ways of communicating can become very, very overwhelming. In addition, sometimes the communication becomes more about the technology used than about the message that we're trying to send. Without effective communication, there's really no way to get anything done, not just inside the classroom, but anywhere else. And this is why this is such an essential 21st century skill, and one that our employers and our colleges are emphasizing so much. Tori describes collaboration as being about working together to reach a goal and putting talent, expertise, and smarts to work. Collaboration has become easier with the advent and the increase of technology. I would venture to say that technology makes collaboration so much easier that there are ways to collaborate now that were not available before. Sometimes, however, this has its breakdowns also. The number of choices can be overwhelming, and the actual collaboration can get lost as we pay too much attention to the tool that we're using for collaboration instead of the content. As the world becomes more and more interconnected, collaboration is going to become increasingly important as a skill. And this is, year after year, we see this as the top skill that employers are asking for, especially in the tech industry, of the students who are graduating from high school and especially from college. This is the key skill that they're looking for. It's number one on the list. And so I think we can't emphasize collaboration, being able to work together as a group enough. Critical thinking. When we talk about critical thinking, we're looking at how we can view problems in a new way and how we can synthesize information, linking learning across subjects and across disciplines. I think critical thinking is an essential skill in all times and all places, but more so now as our students are going to be entering a workforce where we don't even know what problems they're going to face. Chances are that, especially when you're talking about our elementary school students, approximately half the jobs that they will have after graduation from high school don't even exist yet. So they need to be able to problem solve. We can't it's not the industrial age anymore where we can train our students to sit in the same spot for 30 years doing the same menial task in a factory over and over and over again, where they simply need to learn to follow directions. That was good for our parents and our grandparents. It won't work for our students. These menial tasks are handled by technology itself, so we don't need to teach our kids how to be able to do these things that are just menial, repetitive. They need to be able to think and problem solve. Creativity. When I think about creativity, I think about how do we develop new approaches to get things done? How are we being innovative and inventive in our thinking? As different tools develop, it does make the opportunity to be creative increase. We have more and more opportunities to be creative because we can do things with the technology that were really, and I love this word, thank you to the movie The Princess Bride, these things that were really inconceivable before. Think about it. I am so non-musical, but I can use apps on a computer to generate and create works of beauty and music without having that real musical ability. I can't play a musical instrument to save my life. I can't hold a tune in a bucket, but I can create something and be inventive and innovative in that manner with the technology. And that's just one minor example, not really pertinent to what we're talking about today. But creativity is a key skill for our students. To go along with the 4 C's is what I think of as being the 5th C. A key element to getting students to these higher levels is through student choice. We get to teach a few tools to students and then give students a task and allow them to problem solve how they are going to reach that task. Obviously, there needs to be some gradual release, and we can coach students through the process or provide them with some ideas. However, we want them to be creative in how they demonstrate their learning, which is why I think this element of choice is so very, very important. And again, my soapbox, it's all about student choice. If you want students to be engaged and to have the buy-in, they have to have some skin in the game, and that happens when they have choice. Okay, now that we have a foundational background as to why we want to have our students create these engaging presentations, let's talk a little bit about some of the tools. We're going to look at the tools both in the online environment and also in the iPad environment, because there are some similar tools and some different tools as well. So we're going to look at those. We see some of the tools here on the slide. that we'll talk about. We're going to look specifically at Canva, at using Google Slides. Look at, I think we'll talk about HaikuDeck when we talk about the iPad, although it is an online tool as well. We will look at Microsoft Sway, look at Slidely and Powtoon for a couple, even though there are lots and lots of other tools that we could use to create some engaging presentations. I think that will be enough for us to look at today. So I'm excited to go through those. Let's begin. Okay, the first tool that we're going to look at is the Google Slides presentation. And this works, if you've used PowerPoint before, you can use Google Slides and it works the same. Really, it's the exact, it is Google's answer to Microsoft's PowerPoint. But I think that we can talk about some ways to use it effectively. Okay, so first thing you need to do is be signed into your Clark County School District account. And if you're watching this webinar, you're logged into Google Classroom using that account, so you are good to go there. Next, you need to go to your Google Drive, which is just do a search for drive.google.com, and it'll take you into it. Make sure you're logged into your district Google account. Then from Google Drive, you want to click on New, and you will select Google Slides. And so you're going to create a new Google Slide, and this folder is shared, so it asks me to make sure I want to create this document to share with other people. And it gives you a blank presentation that looks just like a PowerPoint presentation. Just like PowerPoint, you can change the background and the layout. You can add a theme, which is useful. I always like to have bright colors in my theme. And you can look at the layout of the different slides. Okay, so you just like PowerPoint, to add text, you put the text in. And you can add subtitles and different. You change the font size and whatnot. Okay, and then what I think is key to using any presentation is to limit the amount of text that is on the screen. Every presentation, and this is key across the board, and several of the apps I'm going to talk about make this a natural part of it. Presentation should be text light and image heavy. And the reason I say that is because two reasons. First, it forces the presenter to know the content so that they are not sitting in front of the class or standing, so they're not standing in front of the class and simply reading their presentation. Second, if there's text on the screen, if it's heavy with text, even if the presenter isn't reading it, the people who are viewing the presentation are, and they're not paying attention to the presenter, which is why I always say image heavy, text light. And so to add an image into your Google Slides presentation, there's this little icon that looks like a mountain ridge, and you can click on that, or you can simply go to Insert an Image, and you see the exact same logo. And so when I insert an image, I'm going to actually search. I want to pull my image from my Google Drive because I have images saved in my Google Drive. You can also upload it from your computer. You can search from the web. You can actually put in a URL if there's an image that you know where you want to use it, where it is at. So I'm going to look at my drive. I'm going to pull some images here off my drive. You have my presentation stuff folder, and I'm just going to pick a random image here that I think would be great to express the idea that I want to get across, whatever it might be. So we're going to get our hands dirty and play with the tools here. And so I have this image of the Jeep in the mud, which, if I'm talking about being hands-on and getting our hands dirty, that image is pertinent. And so I like to choose images that are pertinent but not blatantly obvious a good portion of the time, so that way we can force some connections to be made, and choose images that are fun. And I encourage students to choose images that are fun, and which will create that non-linguistic representation of the content that you're discussing. Okay, so you create several slides. I would definitely put some text on the slide. Let's get our hands dirty and do something to make that text not. That's even worse. There we go. I'll move it down here. Something to make it so there's a contrast between the text and the image. And obviously I would play with the image and resize it to make it so that I didn't have dead space on my screen and all that those types of things that I'm not going to do right now to make sure that it was aesthetically pleasing before I did present here, of course. Okay. Now, something that people, it's a fairly new tool. I guess it came out about 1.5 years ago, so I guess I can't call it new. But when you're presenting using Google Slides, there is a back channel. And when I say a back channel, what I mean is you can, and if you see where my mouse is down here in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, I can put up a Q&A. A back channel can be used to have some interaction with the audience. And so I'm going to start Q&A here, and we'll just click on Start New. Now my presentation says ask a question at, and it gives you a web address. Any participant in that presentation, so the kids in the class can go on to, and if they have a device, it could be a BYOD, a bring your own device situation. It can be a one-to-one environment, or you might have some computers in the classroom. Students can get on and ask or answer questions. Okay. Now it says to ask a question. You're not limited to doing that. That's one way that if students want to take questions, instead of having other students raise their hands and ask the question, you can have students post the question into this back channel, and then the presenter can respond. I like to use it the other way, where I ask a question as a presenter, and then I have my audience respond using that back channel. And so if you try to put this in right now, you won't, viewing the playback, you won't be able to access it because it won't be live at that time. It only works during a live presentation. But that's a great tool, the back channel. Now, what I will see on my end, if I'm presenting, and if I'm projecting this up on the screen, on the computer, I will be able to see this page, but nobody else will be able to see it. Okay, and so the questions will actually pop up, so whoever's presenting can, even if they have it on an iPad, or they can view the questions, but the questions aren't up on the screen unless they click on it. Okay, and so they can actually navigate here from this tool, this presenter view panel, and they can view any questions or responses that come up. And so it's a great way, if we're talking about increasing student engagement for both the presenter and the audience, this back channel can be a very effective tool for making sure that there's that interaction between the audience and the presenter, which again also helps with making sure that presenter isn't just standing up there reading something and doesn't really know what they're talking about, because they're reading something that they copy straight out of Wikipedia, which hopefully is not the case. So that is I think the reason I love using Google Slides for my presentations is because I can throw in that back channel and have that audience interaction, both by asking questions and having responses verbally, and also asking questions and having them respond digitally. And they can see each other's responses, they can vote up or down those responses, and have some interaction that way. And as you can see up here, I'm only accepting questions from the Clark County School District, which means it's not in anonymous mode. I can't put it in anyone where they can be anonymous, but when I'm only accepting answers from the CCSD, people have to be logged into the Google account, and they cannot post a question anonymously. So you take away that element of people being able to post something inappropriate. Okay? So that is Google Slides, and I'm going to pause here for just a minute and ask you a question as part of the interactive elements. Okay, the second tool that I want to show you today, and this is for the online version, is Canva. And it's at a website. If you go to canva.com, and you can log in using your Google account, your district Google account. And I love that single sign-on feature of Google. And you can create these visuals. Now, not every presentation needs to be some sort of a multimedia event that people have to click through. A presentation that students gives can be just one image that serves as a backdrop for their verbal presentation and their explanation. And there's nothing wrong with that, by having an appropriate image as the backdrop to a presentation. And Canva can be used for that. In addition, Canva can be used to create some engaging images to be used in presentations that might be in a Google slideshow or in some other medium, using some other tool. But it's a great place for creating some of these presentations. So when I'm logged into Canva, I want to create a design, and I'm going to choose which of these different designs formatting works best for me. So I'm going to just choose a poster, just because I'm going to say, okay, here's going to be a design that I want to use as a backdrop, at least within one slide of a presentation. Now we see our options on the left-hand side. We have our options of being layouts, elements, text, background, and uploads. Okay, layouts. There are some, and notice Canva is one of those free tools with a lot of upgrades that you can do that cost. And so you can see here in the different layouts, a number of them are free. There are lots and lots of free layouts, but as I scroll down and look at more and more, eventually I'm going to get to some of the paid and some of the paid layouts that I'd have to use for, pay something to use. And it doesn't even tell me right off the bat how much it would be to pay for it. So I'm going to go back up here and just randomly choose one for the fun of it. So here's a layout that I might want to use. Now if I click on the Elements tool, I can add some photos, I can snap things to grids and use frames, I can add some illustrations and whatnot. So maybe I have this jazz festival, and I might want to have a photo in it of an elephant. Don't ask me why. Okay, and so I can see some that are cost and they're part of a pro account, and some that are free. And so I'm going to use this elephant. Maybe I want this free one up here because I only use the free stuff. I'm going to drag it into my presentation. Or into my graphic. I realize that it does not go well in this graphic. I'm just showing you how to use the tool. Obviously that would not fit, and it's covering text, and there are all sorts of problems with me using it at this time. But I want to show you how it can be used. So I'm going to throw that elephant in there just to show you how you can use an image. I can choose just photos or just illustrations, and that way I can narrow down my search a little bit more if I wanted to. Okay. And I go back to elements. Maybe I want to have some shapes or charts or icons in my graphic, and I can include those things as well. I'm not going to go through each of those. The text. Wherever there's text on the screen, you can click on it and edit it and maintain that. So let's see. Maintain that format. Obviously that's going to be way too large, so I'm going to highlight that. I can change the font if I like. I will definitely change the size, and I'm going to want to move it around a little bit. I can move all these elements and customize it and personalize it and change all the text to be relevant to what I'm presenting, and use that as well. I can add additional text if I want, different types of text, headings, subheadings, body text, different fonts that are available that you can see. Most of these elements are all free. As well, maybe I want a different background. Maybe I don't really like that yellow. Maybe I want a yellow lemon background. And so I can drag a different background in there, and it replaces the original background. So for some reason I have a trumpet. No, that's not lemons. Those are watermelons. Yellow watermelons, a trumpet, and an elephant all together in this flyer, this poster that I would use for a presentation. And I don't even. I'm at a loss for how I can make connections to any type of curriculum with that random assortment of items. But it could be used to, like you said, as a backdrop for that presentation, or as an image within a slideshow or something of that sort. Finally, in order to use that, I want to download it. And up here in the upper right-hand corner, I see the download button, and it recommends that you download it as a PDF, which works. If you want to use it as a PNG file and use it as just an image type file, then you could also download it as that. And then you can incorporate that into your presentation as well. So I typically download things as a PDF unless I want to use it as an image file. Okay, so that is the tool Canva. really easy to use, very intuitive. I use it all the time for flyers that I create, for trainings, and for images within some of the presentations that I do. Thank you for that one. All right. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to show you just one more online tool that we can use, and then I'm going to transition to show some of the tools that are done on that you can use on the iPad, some of the apps there. Okay, and this tool is Powtoon. And at the website, if you simply go to powtoon.com and sign in, again, single sign-on with Google, you just sign in using your district Google account, and that works really great. That way you don't have to remember passwords for a bazillion different websites, and that's one thing that, like I said earlier, that's one thing that I love. Okay, so you're logged into Powtoon. I've already done that, and click on Create. It's right there, the first option. And it asks you if you want to start from scratch, if you have some templates you want to use, or if you want to start build your story scene by scene. And it doesn't really matter which one of these you use. You can play with them. I'm going to simply start from scratch today, just because I want to get into it. And it tells me it's loading awesomeness. All right. And I have, oh wow, right now I have an introductory all access pass to use their premium features, because they do have some baseline features that are free, and then obviously this is how companies make money. They have the premium features, which tend to be a little bit better, that people can use. Okay, and so I'm going to use. I love to use the superhero one, so I'm going to use this superhero template. Okay, now I want to add a scene, so I want maybe an introduction scene. I'm not going to skip this tutorial video here. I want an introduction scene, and I get to pick the backdrop here. I'm just going to randomly choose some stuff. All right, and so I've got this. I don't really like that one. That's okay. And so, I'm going to present on something, and I have whatever text I want to have in here, and I can change the text. And it is really not quite what I want. I want to change the text size here. And whatever information I want to put into this presentation. That really doesn't matter, because that's entirely content-based. Remember, content is king. It's not about the tool. It's about what you're trying to teach. And so I create my presentation. And I can preview this one with whatever thing I want as it pops in. Okay, so then I'm going to add a scene. So I'm going to click on Add a Slide over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to bring up page 2. In this case, I want some sort of specifics, and I'll find the one that works for me, drag it in. Again, I'm just picking random ones. I probably wouldn't, here's one with some percentages and stuff like that. Maybe I want this one instead. Okay, and so I can put my information here and have some graphics that move around and that I can play with. Here at the bottom, I can see the graphics that I have. I can look at it. I can make adjustments to it. Look, I can adjust the level of power in this battery and change things. I can flip it around. If I want, I can swap it out with something else. Maybe instead of a battery, I want a flame there. Okay, and I can do all sorts of things with it that I want to do. I can even adjust the color. Okay, whatever it is I want to do. I have a lot of leeway, and I can go into Powtoon and create these things. And basically what you're doing is you're creating a video, and you can speak into it, record and narrate in the video as well. And I guess that's what I should have been doing all along, is narrate my presentation. So this is not a presentation that I would deliver live. This is something that students would use to record a presentation that can then be presented to the class or just for the teacher to demonstrate what they have learned, the knowledge and skills that they have developed in regards to the content area that you're trying to teach, to show that they've mastered that. Okay, so that was a really quick demonstration of Powtoons. Haven't showed you anything of real substance with it. I just wanted to show you how you could get into it and play with it a little bit, and just have fun with it, and allow our kids to look at it and use it as a way of demonstrating what they know. They add scenes, change the background, change the text, add multiple characters. Maybe they want, you want to have the superheroes, so I'm going to pick one of these superheroes and throw them in. Okay, whatever it might be. Great things that they can use to be creative. Again, key here is creativity. All right, that's Powtoons in a nutshell. All right, great. Now we're going to transition a little bit. We're going to move away from talking about the online web-based apps to using the iOS or iPad apps. And we're going to look at some here. Probably take some time to look at Haiku Deck. We've already talked about Canva, which is available as an app as well. Talk about video creation apps such as iMovie and Adobe Voice, and maybe we'll look at a slideshow app like Snapguide for a minute if we have some time, or Doceri, or some of the other video apps like Toontastic or Telegami or Sock Puppets or Gallery Walk like Erasma. And I know we aren't going to have time for all of those, but I'm going to try to probably cover about 3 of those really fast. That way you can have a sense of some of what's available, recognizing that there's much, much more. Okay, talking about some iPad apps for presentation. The first one, like I said, that I want to talk about is Haiku Deck, and this is one that I talk about all the time because it's one of my very, very favorite apps. Okay, and this app is available both online and on the iPad. And what I really like about it is because it is image based. This requires, again, students to know and to explain the content of their presentation rather than to simply read from a presentation, although presenter notes are available. So I'm going to create this random presentation. I'm going to simply call it test presentation. And the first thing I want to do once I get into it, as you can see, is I have a drop down here in the top that says fonts and themes. And this is the 3 lines indicating that if I tap it, that it will give me some choices. So I can choose from these different themes, and notice that the font is different with each of these themes. And I'm going to randomly choose one. I'll choose Orwell right now. And so Orwellian reminds me, just so you know, PowerPoint came out in 1984. Is there an Orwellian connection there? I don't know, but it might be. So random information that nobody really needs to know. But I'm going to choose Orwell as my theme here. Now to edit, first thing I like to do before I put text in there is I like to choose a picture. So I have to think about, okay, what is my content right now? And let's say that I am learning about global warming. So I do a search for that topic. And these images are Creative Commons images that are labeled for use. And so it is permissible for students to use these images within Haiku Deck. And so it brings up some images here that I can look through, and as a student they could look through these images and choose one. Some of them are definitely going to be pertinent. Other ones, are labeled as global warming, or whatever topic it might be, and might not be completely pertinent. And so I'm going to pick an image that I want to use. Now, with that image, I can move it and scale it. Maybe I want to zoom in a little bit, and I can have some background on the text. I'm going to click on Done right now. So I've got my image. I want to zoom out a little bit with that. Okay. Now, with my text, if I can tap to edit, and I'm going to start typing in my text. And so notice it created this text, and there's the background to it. I have that background. I can turn that off if I want, and make it just the white. I do like the background on it. It makes it stand out, and I do appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to put in a subtitle for my presentation. Okay, and as students are explaining their topic, they can put that subtitle in. Now notice I can change the format here. Maybe I want to have it, add another picture in it or whatever I might want. Okay, I like this one right in the middle. Now if I click on the third tab, the third tool down, the layout, I can change that layout to that way maybe my text is covering my image, and so whatever I might want to do to adjust that. I'm going to go with the original here just because I liked where it's placed. And so you create, and then at the lower right hand corner I have this plus sign, and I use that to create a new slide. And so I'm going to again look at global warming and search for that and bring in another image and add some text. And notice it does not give a room for a whole lot of text, and that's a great thing because again we don't want students to be reading the presentation. Now one thing I didn't show you, and I'm going to go back to this first slide to do it. I had my text tool, my image tool, my layout tool, and then the fourth tool down is a notes tool. And notice it gives me public notes and private notes. The private notes are available only on the iPad, but the public notes, one of the great things about HaikuDeck is when I create a file in HaikuDeck on my iPad, I can log into my computer 15 seconds later and it's right there. Now any public notes that I put in on my iPad will also be available on my online version. Private notes will not be. So if I want to have some speaker notes that I can use as I'm delivering this I can type in my speaker notes. I'm going to put them into public notes, that way if they could be available also in the online version. Alright, so I'm going to add my speaker notes. I'm going to click on Done. Now I'm going to click on the Present button, which you see in the upper right hand corner. And it tells me it's saving my HaikuDeck first of all. Now I'm presenting this. Okay. Oops. And I can present it. Now what you don't see that I'm doing is I've actually turned my iPad vertical now, and I have the speaker notes available. Okay. The speaker notes are only available on the iPad if you do the private version, but I like to put them in the public so I can see them also in the online version. Like I said, what I could do is copy them into the private version, have the speaker notes in both places. That way on my iPad, as I'm presenting and talking, I can have some notes there to refer to if I need to. It's kind of a crutch for students. I use it myself as I'm doing some presentations. I might have some images, and it's horrible being in a situation where you have this image and there's no text on the screen, and you think, oh my goodness, I know that's important, but what was I going to say about it? And so I have some speaker notes there that I can just glance down at to refer to remind me about that particular topic, that image, and how it pertains to the topic that I'm presenting. Okay, so that's just a little tool that I find helpful. Kids will definitely find it helpful. Okay, that is HaikuDeck. Okay, the second iPad app that I want to show you is Adobe Spark Video. It used to be called Adobe Voice, and that's a great tool for allowing students to create a little video to present and demonstrate their learning. And this is available also, not just on the iPad, but also it is available online. Okay, so I'm going to create a new video here. I've got some random ones that I've worked on. I'm going to just put practice as my title for this video, and I can pick a template. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to randomly pick a template here. Now, at the top of the screen, I have several options here, and you can see them. The options are layout, and I can choose a full screen with one thing, just one thing with a caption, or two things. Really, those are all my choices. So I'm going to just choose the one thing with this kind of frame around it because I like the appearance of it. I don't really like this black background. I like to have lots of color. So I'm going to select a different theme. I've got lots of different themes here that I can select from. Vivid is very bright, a little bit too bright for me right now. So maybe I'll choose the ginger. All right, nice bright orange theme, which you'll probably notice if you've seen lots of my webinars, I tend to use a lot. So I like that theme. And now, considering my topic, I can choose different music selections here. And so, considering what I might be presenting on, I want to talk about working, so I'm going to choose rolled up sleeves, so I can choose that appropriate music. All right, that works for me. Okay, next thing I need to do, and I'm on slide 1 here, I need to import an image or a video. You can take video from your iPad and put it into an Adobe an Adobe Spark video file. You got a little bit of text, or a photo, or an icon. I like to use the icons. So let's say I'm going to stick with global warming here, and let's see if I can find anything for global warming in Adobe Spark Video. Okay. I'll choose that image, and it may or may not apply. Now I can replace it with some text. If I want, I might want a header slide. I'll do that instead. So I'll have that as my first slide. I'll put that image there that I chose on my second slide. And I can have different images that I can try out and keep going with it. Let's see. And whatever content I want, I can pick those images. Okay. Again, this is a great thing because now it allows the students to record themselves explaining their knowledge, explaining what they know, explaining how to do different things. And it's really easy. As you can see on the screen right now, it says hold to record. The student just has to hold the microphone and record what it is they are trying to explain. This is great because some students who maybe don't have the confidence to stand up and present can sit with their iPad, talk to their iPad, and explain what they know. And the great thing is they can keep doing it until they get it right. So they don't have to get it right the first time like they have to in front of the class. So I'm going to hold the record, and now it's recording me speaking, and I'm going to explain everything I know about global warming on this slide. And this is just my introductory slide, so I would simply do a little brief introduction. And I can listen to it. To record, and now if I don't like what it said, I hold the re-record, and it starts over and completely wipes out that first recording, which was a bad deal anyway, because I was stuttering, as I usually do. I re-record it, I can listen to it again and again and again until I get it absolutely right. I go to the second page and I do the exact same thing, repeat that process, and I explain why something that would probably be, I would hope would be relevant to this image about global warming. Go to the next slide and repeat, and I keep going through that process. And then finally, at the very end, I can view the entire, I can look at, listen to each page as I go, but I can also view the entire presentation. You record, and it starts over and completely wipes out that first recording, which was a bad deal anyway. And I can go back when I've viewed the presentation. I can make any corrections that I need to along the way, and everything is good. It's a great way for students to demonstrate what they know. My favorite example that I've seen of students using this, it was a kindergarten classroom, and the students were talking about the different shapes, and they took their iPad around the classroom and they took pictures of things like the clock on the wall, and they explained that the clock was a circle. They took a picture of a desk and explained it out, of a table, and explained it out that the table was rectangular. It was a rectangle, and there's some things that were triangles and squares, and each student was able to work on explaining what they had learned about the different shapes, and it was created a great video that they could share with their parents. They could post it online, and didn't have any identifying information like students' last names. So it was really a great tool for students to use to demonstrate their learning. We had that authentic audience. The parents loved it, and it was awesome. Then I can export this by clicking that little rectangle with the out arrow, the up arrow. That means you want to export it. I can save the video to camera roll when I'm all done. I need to pick a category, edit the credits. I'm going to save it to camera roll, and it goes through the process and saves this video, this presentation. That is done really in a safe manner for students. It can be, I've used it, like I said, in kindergarten. My little guy did it when he was 3 years old and was able to do it just fine. And it's a great tool. It can be used at the high school and even the college levels, because it allows you to explain what you know. And so it's a easy to use tool without being overly simplistic. So that is Adobe Spark Video, formerly known as Adobe Voice. The final iPad app that I want to share with you today is a pretty new one that I've just recently discovered. I don't know how new the app is, but I just discovered it, and it's actually called SnapGuide. And what SnapGuide is, it's used to create step-by-step video tutorials or sequential presentations using images and text. And I shouldn't say video tutorials. These tutorials require the viewer to scroll through the slides one at a time to show. And so in this case, we're going to create a how-to presentation. Okay. And so I'm going to, here in SnapGuide, I can see a whole bunch of ones that have already been created. I'm going to click the plus sign on the bottom, and I'm going to make this how to create a presentation. And I'm not going to actually go through all the details with it and make it real, but I'm just going to show you how I can do it. Okay, and the first thing you need to do, I don't really use this supplies button. You could add supplies, and if I were making baking a cake or something, I would add all the recipe items there and do that. That way, that completely makes sense to post those up front. But in this case, I'm just going to add a step, and I can include photos, video, or text. I'm going to just select photos, and it's trying to choose my camera, but I have my iPad sitting, so you can't see my camera. But I can look at photos that I have on my iPad already, and let's see. I'm just going to pick that photo there. I want to add a step. I'm going to select another photo. And I'm just choosing random photos that I have in my. If I were explaining something, I'd probably have photos of me maybe performing a task if I were doing this legitimately. And so I'm just going to select some random photos. I can add text as well, just as easily. I can add a video. I can take a video of myself here and reverse it. Have a video of myself talking. And I can explain everything that's so important about creating presentations, and record this video and use that. And I select done. I'm adding a step with the video, and I can add one with just text. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, because I don't want to take the time to actually put something that's substantive in there right now, just to show you the tool. One of the cool things about this is I can also reorder these items by dragging them. Maybe I want to have this item near the end, and I want to have the video up here. It's not letting me drag them now. There we go. I'm dragging that one. There we go. I just wasn't holding on it long enough. So I can drag these items to exactly where I want them and reorder things however would best fit. And I'm having some technical difficulties there. There we go. I got it. Okay. And so I've done all those things I want to do. I'm going to click on Next up at the top right-hand corner. I can have to add a summary, and I can put some random information in there for my summary. I get to choose a topic. I'm going to make this just technology for my topic. And I might want to also choose a cover image. Maybe that's not the cover image I wanted. I'm going to choose a different cover image for my cover image. And now finally I just want to publish it. And I'm publishing it. And congratulations, my guide has been published, and it's how to create a presentation with some random information. Now, as you publish this, you can then share it, okay, by several different means. There, I can share it, I can, airdrop it, but the person who's viewing it will actually go through and they swipe through, and they see. And I didn't put any comments, and you can put captions with each of your images, which works really well for sharing, having some explanation there. They swipe through. They can play the video, explain everything that's so. I'm not going to make you watch that again. There's a reason I don't put the video of myself in my presentations, and they can go through each of the slides with any text that it might have, any videos, any images, and that gives the people. It's really an interactive way of having students show what they know. Okay, so I thought that was a great app that I just barely found. It's called SnapGuide, and which can be used with our students. And so that's the third and final iPad app that we're going to talk about today. Okay, please take a second to go back, and not go back. Please take a second to answer the question that pops up in the interactive for Edpuzzle in regards to the iPad apps at this time. And finally, I appreciate you taking your time to view this webinar on apps for engaging student presentations. Again, my name is Mark Oakton. I'm the coordinator with Technology Integration Support and the Professional Growth System. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me for support, or if you need some help with integrating technology with your students. I am definitely available. I'd love to come out to schools and work with groups of teachers. I want to support you and help you to make this transition to using technology as easy as it can possibly be. So please reach out. Final thoughts, please make sure that you complete the exit survey at the end of this webinar, so that way you can get your credit in Pathor. In a couple of weeks, I will go back in and see who's viewed the webinar and give you credit. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.